Hey, welcome back to Saturday Night Light. I hope that you guys are doing well. I'm here with Trenton today. What's going on, Trenton? And we're back with another video to continue this series, this kind of conversation on what happy people know. I'm sure, like me, you guys are wanting to know, yes, I want to live a joy-filled life. I want to live a happy life. So I want to hear all these words that you guys have to offer.
Yes.
And we're here to deliver another word today. And this video is all about patience. Trenton, when you hear the word patience, what are some things that come to your mind?
When I think about the word patience, what comes to my mind is when I'm actually trying to give people instructions, and sometimes maybe they don't do it as quick as I want them to. Just to be honest, there's moments where I'm like impatient when it comes to getting things done, and I think there are plenty of other people who can resonate with that same thought.
Yeah. I think for me, the first thing I thought of is just on the road. I don't know about you guys, but or if you I just get so impatient on the road, man. Like especially in rush hour, if you're near DC or Baltimore, it's rough out there.
Yeah.
And man, I just
Agreed.
road rage starts dwelling up inside of me. And I'm like, oh no, here we go, and I just feel so impatient. And sometimes I have to check myself, like, all right, like why am I so mad right now? Like all I'm doing is sitting in traffic. I'm alive.
Yeah.
But it's real. It's true. And I don't know about you guys, if as we're talking about some things when we first hear the word patience, if some of those are, checking off the box for you too, like, yes, that's me, I'm sure you have some other examples. I know we do too.
Yeah.
But one question we were kind of talking about before this too is more so, I think when we first bring up patience, we directly go to impatience, how we are impatient in our lives. But I know we talked about like the importance of the role of patience in our lives. So like Trenton, for you, what's your thoughts when I ask like, what role does patience play in your life?
Yes, man, that's a really great question.
Yeah.
Just considering the role that patience has played in my life is understanding self-denial. I think patience really touches on self-denial, and also patience touches on the importance of, which is also a fruit of the Spirit as well, which is self-control. With being self-controlled, we also understand that we can put away the self-gratification. And so that's more so what I think about the role of patience in my life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, kind of denying yourself.
Yeah.
In the moment, it's tough. Yeah, I feel like patience, we get so focused on like that period of time that, this is what we're wanting, right? Like if we use the analogy of driving, it's like, what I want in this moment is to not sit in traffic. And so that's here, right? And where I'm at is here. I'm sitting in traffic. And so there's this gap of time, this gap of period of this is what I'm wanting. And I think what we tend to do is we focus more on the pain of the waiting and what's in that waiting rather than seeing it and maybe the shift of perspective to say there's an opportunity here in this kind of gap of period that maybe I could use for something else. And like you're kind of hinting at letting go of that control that we all have. It's like I want control over this, I want control over that. It's tough. We're going to face that the rest of our lives. But I think really focusing on the perspective of being patient and how valuable that is in our lives is so crucial to move towards a more joy-filled life. Because if I'm in that car, man, and I'm like I'm stuck in this traffic, my first thought is probably not going to be happiness. It's not going to be joy. It's going to be frustration. But if I can use that time to have perspective, that may shift. Like it reminds me of a few years ago, I was in a car accident. I've shared some stories before. And I remember I was in the car with my dad, and we were driving actually here to camp one day. And it was one of the first times I got back in the car, and so I was like freaking out because I was like, man, like I was in a car accident. Like I don't know if you guys have ever, gotten back in the car, or maybe just getting in the car in general is scary. But I remember I was trying to turn at like a four-way stop. And I was going slowly because I was nervous. And this guy behind me was just blaring his horn because I was like taking a while to turn. And I remember I got so mad. I was like, he doesn't know what I've been through. He doesn't understand, what I'm, I have PTSD. I'm trying to turn. Just leave me alone, bro. And I got so frustrated, impatient because I was trying to be patient. And he was making me impatient. And so we're driving, and I felt, almighty and stuff because I remember like, perspective. He doesn't have perspective to know what's going on in my life. And my dad quickly, my wise father quickly gave me a reframe to say, well, maybe he's late for something. Maybe he has a wife in the car. They're trying to go to the hospital because she's about to give birth. I also need to have perspective in that patience to maybe think, to have a better understanding of what's going on maybe in that guy's life. And I don't know about you, like I think the other big thing with patience is learning how God shows us patience. You know, we're here not to just be motivational in our conversations and give, you know, maybe good feedback on how to live a happy life, but also to go to the one who has, you know, much more to say about a lot of things, including patience. So I don't know about you, Chenton, but like, what do you think about patience in reference to God and maybe, you know, things in the Bible? Like, you know, what kind of comes to mind?
I mean, I'm sorry, I'm not actually going to answer that question
Sure,
just quite yet. But considering that most of the times when we have issues with patience, because it's all the time, we're having a fight between the spirit and the flesh, right? And realizing that we have to continue to pray and spend time with God in order to continue to endure through the testing or the stretching of our patience. Because we don't there's a lot of times where we settle, right? We settle our standards when it comes to patience and things of that nature. Well, when we're not patient enough and we settle for what is counterfeit versus what God really wants for us in our life.
Yeah, that's good.
And we need to understand that patience plays a very, very important role for when it comes to perspective, when it comes to denying ourselves and following Jesus and taking up our cross. Right? And so I think that, to me, resonates very strongly. But I mean, thinking about God is faithful to give out seeds to all of us, right? He's throwing seeds of love, throwing seeds of patience, throwing seeds of kindness and gentleness to us, and things of that nature, in order so that we can actually grow in our faith, to grow as big, beautiful trees as He desires us to be, and not try and just look for the shortcut answer, look for the shortcut resolution. But when we have a heavenly perspective, it has better and deeper eternal effects to how we live our life.
Yeah, it's good. You're right. It's like fruit, right?
Yes.
Like we were talking about this.
Yeah.
Like it's like fruit or vegetables or stuff that you grow. I don't know about you guys, but like actually like a month or so ago, I bought an avocado for the first time.
Oh. Wait.
I've had avocados before, and I love guacamole, but I've never gotten my own avocado and made my own guacamole. Like I've always had someone that's like, either I bought it at, you know, Chipotle or something. But anyways, I learned very quickly that there's a right time to eat the avocado.
Yes, sir.
There's patience required.
Yes,
my thought
sir.
was, I bought it at the grocery store, I can go home and make guacamole, but that's not true.
Yes.
You have to wait.
Yes.
And the thing is, if you don't wait, it's not as good.
Yes.
And so like you're saying, when we're not patient in life, there's a good chance we're probably settling for something that isn't maybe what God promised for us, because we're not able to wait. It's like in the Bible, like Abraham and Sarah, you know, God promised them, you know, look at all the stars, try and count them all.
Absolutely. That's
how many descendants you're going to have.
That's right.
And what did they do? You know, they went off and made, you know, children a different way, not the way that God had promised. They didn't wait. The cool thing is that God still fulfilled that promise, but they went through some issues to get there because they couldn't wait. So it's tough, but it's crazy how in the Bible there's so many stories, and I think there's something to take away from that. That, you know, why does God talk about patience a lot in the Bible?
I think it's crazy. Like we need patience, but we need to ask God, help us with patience. Like I think that's the biggest thing. Again, it's a fruit of the Spirit. Asking God, Holy Spirit, can you help me with this? Can you walk through with me with this? And needing to have that perspective of like, okay, not my will, but your will be done, God. Because there's bigger impact than what we see with our own eyes a lot of the times.
That's true.
And so that's important.
Yeah, it's just letting go of control really is, and seeking to understand rather than, you know, sitting in our own selfish desires, whether it be, you know, I want healing in my life, or it's as simple as I'm frustrated with this person because I asked them to do something they didn't, or it didn't happen in the way that I wanted. And we're so quick to very quickly go to impatience, very quickly judgment, rather than to have that perspective, to have that understanding. And the cool thing is, that's how God shows patience to us. That's how He shows love to us. And so, you know, if we want to be like Him, if we call ourselves Christians, that's what we should seek for. So really, you know, how do we develop patience in life? My first thought is, how do we do that practically? You know, if we're saying happy people know how to show patience, how do we develop that in our lives? And my first thought is, well, maybe we need to act as best we can like Jesus, read His words. You know, what does He show us? It's like the prodigal son. It's like the father, you know, gave his one son all of his inheritance. His son went off and did who knows what. And, you know, I was a father. I'm not a father, but I'm sure in that moment that father was very upset. He's like, oh my gosh, you know, I love my son so much. And, you know, I gave him his inheritance, but then he just left me. But that father waited there hoping one day he would return. And when he did, he didn't say, you terrible son, you wasted all my money, my inheritance, I don't like you. No, he welcomed him with open arms.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why I think God shared that story with us in his word.
Yeah.
But I don't know, like for you, Trent, how do you think, because I think that's the question we should leave this conversation with today is, how do we develop patience in our life? It's great to talk about. We all want to be patient, right?
Yeah.
But those days when you get home and you got kids and, it's real life, how do we show patience in those crazy moments?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, maybe people aren't necessarily struggling with patience with others, but even patience with themselves.
Yeah.
I sometimes deal with that, like having patience with myself. Maybe I'm at a specific age and I should be this place in my career, or I should be, more patient with other people. I should, be here, there, and yonder. But I think it's really being graceful to yourself. The way that you treat yourself will reflect how you treat others. At least that's how I've noticed about myself. And so really just sitting in the Word, sitting in God's presence, and taking a chill pill and being like, okay, God, like what, in this moment of patience, in this waiting season, what could I be doing, or what could I be really focusing my mind, focusing my thoughts towards, focusing my activities towards, that could really help go towards what your end result is, not my own, right? And so I think more so in that perspective. And then God will continue just to lead you in that area. But reading books that are actually, that help in that area of patience, and, being able to do things like that. So,
Yeah, no, that's good. I think, if you guys have any great ideas too, we'd love to, continue this conversation. So, feel free to comment down below or, reach out. But we, in our lives, we want patience, right? I think we all could say we want more patience, whether it's from other people or with ourselves. But I think what you're saying is so true, that it really starts with us. It starts with how we treat ourselves, because that's ultimately going to bleed into everyone else around us. If I'm not patient with myself, I'm probably not going to be patient with other people.
Yeah.
So I encourage you guys to think through, how can you develop patience in your life? How maybe Trenton and I do that in our lives, maybe a little different, but we encourage you to maybe take some time after this video to kind of sit and ask that question, how am I going to develop patience in my life? Because, all of us want change, right? We want to see positive change. I'm sure that's part of the reason why you're watching these videos.
Yeah.
But in life, if we don't do anything different, we're not going to see different results.
Yeah.
So if you want to see a difference, you got to make a difference. And it doesn't need to be something crazy.
Yeah.
Like I talked about, always feeling rushed in the car, I'm impatient while driving. Maybe my practical thing this week is trying to leave a little earlier. So I don't feel as rushed, so I don't get impatient when I am in traffic, because I know I was prepared for this because I left earlier. Even though I feel like I would still maybe get impatient regardless, because sitting in traffic is not fun. But really sitting after this video and thinking, how can I develop patience in my life, I think will be really encouraging for not only me and I'm sure you, but everyone that watches this video.
Yeah, and also learning the importance of contentment, whether that's whether when you have a lot or where you have a little. Learning contentment is definitely a very strong tool that God has given us. Through Paul spoke of that. Whether you have a little or you have a lot, you learn contentment. And as you are content in understanding where you are in your life and how God is kind of developing you, that will really shield you from other like thoughts and things like that that you have that keep you away from God's desire for you and God's promise for you, right?
Yeah, that's good. I'm sure we could sit here. We could sit here for hours talking about patience.
Probably so.
It's a big topic, and it's a real thing that we all struggle with.
Man.
So again, just please take time after this video, really think through, in your heart, how can I, show more patience in my life? How can I develop that? And get practical. Come up with some smart goals that you can reach, and start doing that this week. But thank you again for joining us for another video. We're so grateful for all of you that watch these, and I hope they're helpful. And we got another one coming soon, so please stay tuned. But have a great rest of your weekend, and we'll see you soon.